so wonderful to see people in person. We tried to spread out the chairs for your comfort. Feel free to spread out further if you feel like you need to. I will try my best to stand back from you when I'm speaking and try to wear a mask for your comfort when I'm not speaking. Not to be too personal, but I am fully vaccinated and also have had my booster. So just to let you know that. Thank you for coming. It's so great to have people here in person, and it's so wonderful to have this program. We, over the past few weeks, have had to change the tone of this meeting and the content of this meeting because of what happened in board meeting. And we know we sent you a notification of the exciting things that happened during board. Have a really exciting and thanks for being here. Kelly, are we good on Zoom? Can the people on Zoom?
I think Aaron's the only person on Zoom, and I think, Aaron, can you hear us? Yep, so it sounds like we're good.
So I was in a meeting with the National Association for Music Education yesterday. All about getting through this difficult time. So look at this and see if you can get bigger. See if I can make that bigger.
No, I'm like a friend and it's still very small. Far away that I have an issue with.
Yeah.
So let's do this. I'll just read a few of these things. Take a shower or bath and truly relax in the warmth like you're at a spa. Remind someone how much you love them. Go out of your way to drink extra water for a day. So we are just excited to talk to you and have you talk to one another about what you're doing right in this moment, not in this moment, but in this situation for your own self-care. Turn and talk to your neighbor. What do you do for your own self-care?
Hard liquor.
Yes,
There's so many A names.
I know.
Ashley.
They are kind of-
But it's Alyssa, not Amy, right? Yeah, a lot of A's.
Actually, it's on that.
I watched too much TV.
Oh, yeah.
I was sleeping.
Just like
You'll come and take looks with us. I found these little shower, like almost like a bath bomb, but it's a shower one, so you put it in the shower, so it makes it like a spa. They're just on Amazon. And what do you do? Lavender or lemongrass one. They are so.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you. I'm going to tell you a little bit about this system right now before we share. This is a really sensitive system that we are sending out to Aaron. And the cameras will follow the sound, and there are microphones located in the room, and they are really sensitive. So if you can limit things banging on the table, if you can limit side conversations, Aaron will have a lot better experience.
And anyone else who joins us.
The microphones are in the ceiling, so everywhere you see the little green lights in the tiles.
So she
Those
was
are
eavesdropping on all of our conversations.
Yeah, sure everyone. We have someone in the waiting room, Kelly. Yep. So I'll tell you what my self-care is. When this came up in the meeting with NAFME yesterday, it's a really stressful time, we all know that. For me, what works is endorphins. So I go work out hard. I work out hard, get the endorphins, and I'm at the point now where if I don't work out, I really have an endorphin addiction. So I can be really ornery if I'm not getting those endorphins. Professionally, what really renews me, and I know you as well, is to get out in the schools and see the kids and to see and remember why we do what we do. Anybody want to share what you do for your self-care?
So I will endorse what you're saying. So endorphins are always a good thing. So being outside is my self-care, being outside and going on a hike or a mountain bike. But I also have been doing these little mindful moment cards that we had someone come to our Arts or Core conference and she presented them. So they're really wonderful affirmations and just saying those out loud.
Thank you.
Do you want a professional one also? That's good.
Here are the meeting norms today. Most of those we've used before. Attention to the last one, which I spoke about avoid side conversations or other noise. That's not because we don't want you to have a conversation. It's simply because of the Zoom issue. Look at those to see if there's anything, a question or anything that you would like to add. It's going to be really essential today that we approach our discussions from an asset-based inquiry, that we look at what we have in this system and how we can enhance that and move it forward to this opportunity for full implementation. So it's not a glass half full or a glass half empty. It's neither of those things. It's not an optimist or a pessimist. It's, hey, we have a glass and it has some water in it. So what are we going to do with it? And so if we can keep that in mind, asset-based inquiry throughout. Anybody want to comment on the meeting norms? So please turn into about hopes for the day. What do you hope to learn? What gives you the most concern? And what gives you the most excitement? So 4 different questions about agreements.
I feel like we should switch it up a little bit. Like Kelly, over again. All right, well, we just met your new girl. She's so great. Yeah, she went back for us. Okay, we're good, okay? Yeah, okay. We just met her. Addison, I'm just leaving.
So don't mind you.
At the end of this year. 4 years with Addison, so I'm gonna be posting. Yeah, I do too. I'm just. Me too. That's my biggest fear. But I just
Good listeners.
Yeah, we brought a report. Now just start to put the word out. Because it's hard in our region. But we better. For tomorrow's position, she wasn't able to.
So Erin types something.
She's shaking her head. She has the most beautiful notebooks where she'll write stuff in it.
Oh, I want to see a notebook.
Oh, they're gorgeous.
Yeah, salary. But our position. So anyhow, we'll talk. Okay, so what do we have to?
Well, I'm pretty new and I don't really know. No, they're like, but they're like blank, so she has.
During all of this going on, I don't know how to mute that when we have these conversations.
So and I think Jerry's on the line as
I guess
well.
my concern is just not knowing what I'm supposed to
And
do.
Jerry,
This is my first TS meeting. I mean, like, you know,
Totally.
so I'm just like,
Find some solutions.
what's your concern? My concern is sometimes we get here and don't really know where we're. I can see that.
Not as much of a concern now.
Really optimistic.
Yes, but
Go through the longest in this room. Sometimes I feel like we do the same thing over and over. About solving problems together. We have the same problem.
It is the same.
And then maybe.
Exactly. You formulate something that we can move on.
okay, bring it back in 5, 4, 3, and 1. Thank you. I love this picture of Beverly and the children, going back to what energizes me and what keeps me going into the schools. And then seeing this, seeing Beverly at the center of our work. Beautiful. I mean, isn't it wonderful to see how the children respond to her? And look at these little eyes right here. Isn't that cute? And to realize the impact that Beverly has made on the children across the state in the last 25, 30 years. It's amazing. And what an honor it is for us to carry on that vision, to carry on her legacy, and to make sure that children are happy and joyful in their school, partly because of the Beverly Sorensen Arts Learning Program. So let's, I know I said asset-based, so let's get the scary stuff under the rocks. Let's get that out of the way right now. What gives you the most concern about the day?
First.
Oh, yes, that was one of the
Norms.
rules. For you guys, Zoomers, then roomers. Okay? So Zoomers, thank you, Karen.
I'm not sure Erin put anything in the chat about concerns. This is her first BTS PD meeting. So if you don't know who Erin Roundy is, she is helping out at Weber State University with Tamara. But she's just excited to kind of see, pay no attention to the man behind the curtains. She's excited to see kind of the inner workings of BTS Arts from this perspective. So
welcome, Erin. Jerry, did Jerry put anything? Okay. Anybody in the room?
it's okay to be honest.
It's okay to be honest. It's important for us to know what you're worried about. Okay. What are you most excited about?
well, I think we need to go back to that.
Okay.
I'm gonna just start. I think what I'm most concerned, and I think we talked about in a circle, is that we don't want to go in circles. We want to just tackle some things and find solutions, right? So just, so I think that would be a concern, that let's just work well together today and come up with some solutions rather than kind of going in circles and not feeling really good at the end of the day.
Okay, cool.
Also, the lack of natural light is concerning.
I know. Addison and I were like, oh no, it's in the basement.
I opened the blinds. That's about it.
Windows, but they're just.
It's
You have a nice
awful.
view of the cement wall.
Oh, yes.
There is about 20 minutes during the afternoon where you do get sun through here.
About
the time we
Take a
leave.
brain break and get sunshine.
Yes.
For 5 minutes.
Agreed.
That's a
So-
concern.
Anything else on this list that you feel is, Callie?
Well, to add, when we talked about our concern, we talked about what we're most excited about. It's brand new problems to solve.
And what really made us excited was to come together with really smart people in the room, knowing we can work hard to solve those problems.
Yeah. Thank you. That's what I'm most excited about as well, so thank you for sharing that. Okay, let's go on. Here is from the agenda, the learning intention. That's criteria. Want to share and have new ideas for professional learning as the program grows. And our success criteria will be a list of potential PD needs for program growth. Our next is to review the onboarding and year-long Canvas courses. Success criteria will be knowledge of responses from educators in the region. Explore the data points from the assurances. And the success criteria will be to findings from the assurances with our practice. And then the majority of the day spent reviewing the potential for growth of BTS Arts statewide. And our success criteria will be to develop strategies for growth of BTS Arts with the what ifs and the what's next. I want to be clear that by the end of today, we will likely not have a concrete plan. One reason is that we won't know what the funding is going to be. But we will have some idea of what if we get $12.7 million? What needs do we have? What strategies do we have? And what resources, with our glass of water, what resources do we already have that we can put toward that? So those are the learning.
So Kathy, as part of those success criteria, because I know how long planning for this takes, maybe if we could identify some of our key concerns to watch for so that as the funding amount goes up and down, we still know these are the primary things that need to be addressed no matter how much money we get. That kind of thinking?
Yes, and I think you'll find that in the way that we have the afternoon organized. Yeah. With those what ifs, what if it's half that, what if it's still, what are the key things that we need? Because any growth will need that attention. Thank you. So here is, here we don't have our,
Kelly is prepared.
Kelly is on it. All right, we're going to give each university a separate color. Not that we can keep track of you by university necessarily, but we can all of your stuff together. You will have the color-coded Post-it notes.
I did yellow and orange.
And
Different yellow. It's golden.
we would like you to post on the charts the PD successes that are worthy of celebration, so that your colleagues can see what you have done. On a different Post-it, we will post your professional learning challenges. Once you feel like you have had a chance with your university to post your successes, challenges, and parking lot, take the time to do a gallery walk and read the comments of everybody else. And notate those things that you want to ask more about, and we'll ask those posters. You're one step ahead of me, so find the commonality. It's fine. Find the commonalities and organize them.
Oh, you're good. I'm just trying to give our Zoomers the opportunity.
What commonalities did you find on successes?
Oh my gosh, the best one? You said that you think everyone will put something up there about subs, but look how many are connected about such good attendance at our PDs. People are so glad to be out of COVID. Like, we didn't have anybody miss because of subs. Our only absences from our all-day training was people who had been exposed to COVID who couldn't come or had a brand new baby. COVID was the only reason anybody missed. Our sub problem, principals have been told from the beginning, sorry, we don't provide subs, and you got to figure it out. So maybe the kids just didn't get art that day. But I can't believe everyone's talked about how good the attendance is. So subs hasn't hurt.
That's awesome. Anything else from successes? Thanks, Kelly. That's good to hear. How about challenges? Challenges or? Now, what is the next?
I just noticed several that were kind of after effects of COVID. There's some trauma, there's some issues with management in the classroom from students having been online for the last couple of years. So just those after effects.
Let me introduce Elisa, who is with BYU. Wonderful collaborative group. And throughout the day, we'll get you introduced to everyone. Welcome, welcome. That was borne out in the national meeting too. That is not unique to Utah. I talked with a neighbor who's a kindergarten teacher, and she said this year, my kids are so much more traumatized than they were last year. Last year, they managed through the masks and everything was kind of new, and now they're just so done. So, anything else from the challenges you want to talk about? Important for us to know.
Well, a lot of people did put subs, but Callie's point is well taken, that when principals know specialists are not there for classroom teacher planning time, they don't have a sub problem. They're there for teacher planning time. So,
well, and I have a sub problem too with, because preps and events for non-BTS teachers, and right. I mean, we just can't do daytime things.
Right,
Yeah.
right, and
But
we
then
know
they're
that you
so
had to.
tired that afternoon and evening or weekend things is sort of past their ability of.
Yeah, that balance between what is tolerable outside of the day. Yeah.
yeah, they want to have their bath and go on their hike and do whatever. They're
Yeah.
not going to do that. But it's really about the expectation that a principal has, and when they're uneven, for some people it will be a success because the expectation matches theirs. And for some it will be a challenge because there is no form expectation for administrators.
I hope that was solved for the two teachers who had that. Has it been?
We're up to 6 and they're not coming, and 3 coaches who are coming. So it's still the same. We have an LEA where coaches are able to attend PD, but specialists are not. And so specialists are trying to go to a thing, and there's not district support.
I asked her. Just about ready to go on. I thought you were.
Go ahead.
Okay. So I'm curious, Alyssa brought up her non-BTS teachers. One of our challenges that I don't really know how to articulate is the inclusivity issue of where your funding comes from. And in our districts, you know, Bob just told me last week, they have 70 people who are teaching the arts in Alpine that are not funded by BTS ALP. You know, Provo District has a music specialist not funded by BTS ALP. That inclusivity of who's in the club and who's not in the club, that's a challenge right now. I don't know how to address that or how that's going to be influenced by supplanting when we get additional funding. So Alyssa, when you said you have those non-BTS people, what are some of the sensitivities you've dealt with? I should say Elisa. This is Alyssa and this is Elisa. Now I'm sorry. Thanks, Elisa. When you listed that as a challenge, help me understand what you meant.
Well, we had a daytime event that we had to cancel and postpone, and we haven't set a date yet because we had a lot of people sign up, and most of them canceled because there were no subs available to be had.
That they were grade level teachers.
Grade level
teachers.
Yes.
Grade level classroom
For our
teachers.
grade level classroom teachers, they're really having this sub issue.
Yeah.
And our BTS people aren't. So you weren't meaning non-BTS arts educators, you were meaning grade level.
Grade level teachers.
Okay, thank you for clarifying that.
Classroom PD, and we just,
But to piggyback on when you
specialists that are not BTS.
Oh, yeah, we have licensed certified teachers that are hired as in the arts that aren't BTS. and we have some political things to weed.
Not even hired as like a full-time.
Hours.
Right,
As
as
an
an
hour,
hour
hour.
instead of as a.
I think that there will be much of that across districts. So thank you for bringing that up, because that is something that we'll want to think about. And I have thought about the supplant issue. I have thought about that. I'm not going to say I have a
There's no
solution
easy
to it.
solution. Yeah.
But I have thought about the difficulty of the supplant.
And I don't want to discourage districts from hiring
Having
people with their
more
own
than-
money.
Exactly.
They should be adding their own money.
That's exactly right. We will keep these and we will collate these and get them out to you. The questions that are in the parking lot, you can continue to add as we go through other subjects. But let's go on. And we already talked about this. We're taking what we have in common. Isn't this a cool picture? It's a cool picture. What we have in common and thinking about those things that we have in common that are successful and leveraging them for the future with something that can be bigger, brighter, more glorious, all of those things. Okay.
I'm up. Okay, one of the things that we've been doing this year, Dr. Kathy, has been the onboarding course, and I just want to give everyone an update on where we're at, what we're doing to follow up, you know, what the process is on this side of things. Oops, going the wrong way. Okay, so right now we did some pre and post survey. We asked some really explicit questions on their knowledge of the BTS Arts program, arts integration, roles and responsibilities, endorsement and licensure, a couple of other things. The blue line is the data we've gotten so far from the pre-survey, and the red line is post. So we are seeing growth in knowledge from pre to post at the end of this onboarding course. You can look by This is all in the Google Drive that was sent to you this morning, so you can look at this in depth. We've also seen the increase in numbers, so this information will help us plan. Maybe we need to, buff up the arts integration in the onboarding course to get more growth from pre to post. Maybe we need to buff up some more information on classroom management to see if we can increase the growth of knowledge from the start of the course to the end of the course. So we're looking at that. Also in that Excel sheet, I love making charts and graphs out of Excel. I just love data. You'll see on the left side will be pre-survey information, what people answered, and then on the right side you will see posts, so you can look by question if you're interested in that. So I have every question, a pre and a post. And then we asked some really explicit questions at the post survey that asked rate your overall knowledge. Oh, here it is. This content was helpful based on my present needs, the length of the course, the implementation of the knowledge learned, how likely are you to implement that, and then if the learning intentions were met. So you can kind of see post what we have. The most important thing are what we're doing with this information, because it's great that I've sat down and put the stuff in an Excel sheet and all these great graphs, but it really matters what you do with that information in order for it to move forward. So first and foremost, the priority was making sure everybody accepted the course, which was an invitation, was a presentation at your meetings, and then there were quite a few emails. So following up, sending an email to them saying, hey, please make sure you join the course. If you're having trouble joining the course, you can reach out to me. We can get you troubleshooted so we can get you in the course. We've got 100% fidelity. So everybody who is a new BTS Arts educator this year has accepted the course. So yay! It was a lift, but we had that done probably, I would say, mid-September, which is about when we've gotten to see everyone as a group. Right now, where we're at is we're addressing any problems. So you can see on this previous slide, we had one or two people who said that they're not one person who said, I'm not likely to implement the knowledge in this course. Well, that means I need to follow up and we need to follow up and say, okay, what can we do better to help support you in implementing this knowledge into your classroom? We reached out to them, we got an email, I actually got an email this morning that said, I took that course at the beginning of the semester and I was so overwhelmed, I couldn't even think about implementing anything. I just had to show up to school, but now I feel like I can implement that knowledge. Now I feel like I'm on a good course. Thank you for following up. So a big part of looking at this data is seeing those lower points and reaching out. If there are questions that come in the data, how can we help? How can we help answer those questions? So we're in the process right now. I check the data about every 2 or 3 days so I can update all of the graphs, but also send direct emails to address any concerns. Right now, we're also in the regular reminders to complete the course. I don't want to spam their inbox every day to complete the course, but now we're getting at a point in the semester where they need that information to move forward to really find success with the BTS Arts program. So I think so far we're on email 2 of, hey, please don't forget to, complete this course. As a reminder, this is where you can find it. This is the purpose of this course. So we're kind of in the process there. And then our next step. So by March, we should have, I'm hoping, close to a larger percentage complete. Right now, we have about 60% people who have completed the course from start to finish. So we're still trying to get that latter half. In March, what we're going to do is look at all that data and make adjustments, right? No course will ever be perfect, no matter how many times we do it. We're always going to have to make adjustments. So what I plan to do is give you another update in our PDP meeting and Endowed Chair meeting in March, and then update and review the course based on the data we have. So as you go through it, as you're talking with your educators, really want this course, and we really want this course to be useful and helpful for them to find success in the program, to really lay a clear foundation on what the expectation is. So any data you get on that, know in March we'll have those conversations. The plan is in July is to duplicate, adjust, and republish so that our new educators can do it, and then we'll do the whole process again to repeat it. So we'll go back up here and get everyone to accept it and keep going through this process. So that's kind of where we're at on the onboarding course. In the drive, you will see by name what exactly their responses are, as well as all the graphs. So you're welcome to take a look at that. I will continue to update that every week or so to make sure that you have that information.
So what questions or comments do you have about the onboarding course?
Onboarding course, people who do that then also have to do the other one.
Yes.
Is it possible in the future to make onboarding a module within one course so people don't have to go to 2?
You can assign a module to a certain subgroup of students, so that might be.
Yeah, that might be something we can definitely look at so that it's in one
They're
place.
going back, some of the new ones are going back and forth.
Yeah.
Back and forth.
I get that, yep. Yeah, that's absolutely something we can look at.
I don't think the assignments of the materials are duplicative in the 2 courses.
Yeah.
So a separate module within might work.
Yeah, that's definitely something we can look at structurally, and that's the plan, right? We always want to make it better, make it easier, make it more accessible so that people do it and get the information they need. So thank you for that suggestion.
Well, and I don't think it would hurt to have some of our long-term specialists go back and review. Hear them talk, other teachers, and you're like, no, stop, that's not. Stop.
Yeah. And
you're giving out wrong information.
So just every blank number of years, they just get dumped into that module,
Yeah, that
or
might-
into the refresher module.
or something.
Oh, right, yeah, maybe there's even like a shorter version that's a refresher module, and we look at some of those things. Because things like the handbook adjust, right? They update. Those updates happen every year, so I think that is a great suggestion on how we can
That's a great idea.
really
And their
support.
situation changes. They might have gone from full-on integrated with the classroom teacher to now they're a prep model. And that's going to change their perception of the program and the way they feel the program should work. At least talking to teachers.
Yeah, those are great ideas. And in March, we'll try and have a really robust conversation so we can make those changes and move forward as a unified group. So I just wanted to share where we're at so you know that it's not just a Canvas course that lives on Canvas and nobody looks at it. We look at it like every day or two. So things are happening with it.
How
Callie.
many of them have finished it?
About 60% of the people have finished it. So we're moving forward.
And when you have, like, in my region, their district coaches are in charge to follow up on that. So when you communicate with a specialist, are there people that you CC on that, or how do you manage that?
Yeah, so if we have strong district support, what I'll do is CC that district support and the principal on the email after I've sent one or two I don't want to throw anyone under the bus, right? I usually send one or two emails that's like, hey, don't forget to complete this, or hey, we really need you to accept this course. And after the second or third time, then I will CC those supportive LEA folks, their principal, so that then they're having other support systems in their space saying, hey, there's this course, don't forget about it. We want to support you in helping you finish that. So I do CC those people on these kind of reminder emails once I get to a certain point. So.
And then do they need to CC you back? Like when a coach is helping somebody, they need to let you know anything?
No, absolutely not. And if they're communicating on Canvas, I can see them, and Karen's going to talk a little bit about that, but we can see that and we look through it, and that's helpful. I don't want to say it's required of anyone, but it is helpful. It does support those educators even more to have more people involved in those conversations. But
you do review those communications?
Oh, yes, I do. Yes, I do.
That's not to say that if a coach or a PDP has something that they feel like Kelly needs to know or we need to know.
Right, then they would
certainly they're welcome.
Yeah, of course.
But it's not a requirement.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, I took up more time than I was supposed to, so I'm handing it off to Karen.
Good, that means mine can be short.
I told her she had to either say like keep going or wrap it up for me.
So now we're going to talk about the year-long Canvas course. And unfortunately, we do not have 100% of the people who have accepted this course. We are still probably 45 people shy after many reminders. And it's truthfully, or frankly, a struggle for some of our people, some of our educators. I think for a lot of them, they feel like, oh, this is so much more that I have to do. But truthfully, it's things they should be doing already. And so I hope some of you, you've all been invited. I asked for a list of who wanted to be TAs. So I hope you've all had a chance to look at it. I know some have dived in more deeply than others, but these are the assignments. The first 4 have already been. So meet with your principal, meet with your LEA level contact, get a copy of your schedule, and submit your professional development plan. Almost everybody has done something who has accepted the course. The one they're having a hardest time with, apparently, is the meeting with their LEA level contact. I think a lot of times they don't know who it is. So that is something that as regions, if you can support them in that, that would be great. And also, I hope that you have a chance to look at the information, review their schedules, and especially as you're planning PD for them, if you look at their professional development plan, to kind of see what they need support in. So there has been, we did have a little glitch with it. So with the due dates, it locked the first 2 assignments. So anybody who was late was not able to submit. But we have now resolved that issue. So they can still submit after the due date. And even though we know it's not your responsibility at all to make sure that people join and or accept the invitation, we hope that you will support in your PDs, that you'll bring this up and encourage them to complete these assignments. None of them really take very long. They should be doing these things anyway, and they are important for us to have this information. So if any of you have not yet been added as a TA and would like to be, please let me know. I know at a time, it was my understanding that you could either be a student or a TA, and there are some that have dual roles. And Alyssa pointed out to me that I can add somebody twice, just with a different role. So some people have been added twice. But we're gonna keep going with this, and hopefully will buy into it. I know people in the BYU region have been doing a similar thing. It's been a little easier for them to adapt. Although there are still some who still are struggling.
I have to tell you the truth about that. I know who my 2 teachers are in my region who will not be able to sign up till I go to their school and show them on their computer how to do it because they are that technology challenged. And every year I've been out to their school to help them in person solve it.
Yep, I was on the phone with one of them yesterday. Every time I get a call like that, or we get a call like that, where we just tell them, we are here to help you get through it. So whether it's getting on Zoom and sharing screen, or FaceTime with someone, or talking on the phone to show them how to bookmark it so they don't have to keep typing in the 20 pages. That's something that I know we're also willing to help support to help them get there too.
And sometimes I do have to call a coach and say, I cannot make it out there. I need you to go visit this teacher because they can't get online. So when you know, I would love to see a list of our people who haven't, because I know them well enough now to realize, oh, you have the list. I just have to, Alyssa has that list. She's on top of it. I don't have to be. It's so great. But so we'll check, because she didn't even realize till now. I know which of those are for some. I know some of the reasons behind some of them.
And I'm sure there are, and there are always going to be some people who just are not going to buy in, are just not going to do it. So Amy, and then.
I'm wondering, it must show on Canvas.
So, yeah, so if you go into the people part of each course, and then there are tabs that show you can either get a list, or there's a tab called University Regions. And under that tab, it's divided into the regions that you requested. So all of DSU is going to be under one tab.
Right,
BYU has it divided out into
But I couldn't, I guess if their name's on there, they've accepted the course.
It's a check mark by their name.
Yeah,
if
or
they've
it'll say
accepted.
pending.
Yeah, it says pending.
Pending means they have not accepted the course
How
yet.
do we know, or how do I know? Asked you questions or is struggling? Because our teachers have done the least. And I don't know when or where to step in. I don't know what communication is happening between you and them.
So we'll try to copy, the program coordinators, or whatever your title is in your region. We'll try to copy you on the stuff that we send.
And for me in the onboarding course, a lot of the conversations will happen in Canvas explicitly. And so you'll be able to see on the grades, you'll see it on the right-hand side, all the conversations that have happened on that assignment as well. So
I know there's a couple teachers just like that I'm
Push the buttons.
either go to the school or do it when they're at DSU.
I don't feel like Dixie is, it's in every region. There are just some for who it's a giant challenge, and some just people who are overwhelmed by, I can't do one more thing.
So one of the things we learned is that some districts have really great support in this. And one of the first questions I ask now is, who's the technology person in your district? Is there someone at your district that you could call? And then that gives them a connection to solve their problem long-term, rather than, Doug or I used to go out. And so like a teacher in Jordan district, if I say, well, who's your technology person? They've got someone right there in their district who will help them.
That's really important that they gain the skill, because this isn't the only Canvas course in their career that they will
And they need to
likely
know there's
access.
somebody within their own district that will help them. They're not powerless, they're not helpless.
We know going forward, even after COVID kind of subsides, technology is just going to be the way we do it.
So,
Ashley.
oh, yeah, just a couple of things. People who do not need this kind of help, but they are not gonna do it unless they get capped. So I don't know if that's an option.
Well, theoretically, I think it's part of their job assignment, so they shouldn't really be getting extra points for doing it.
Well, their argument is that they're already submitting most of this information to their district. With the extra step to submit it to the state. They're really gonna resist doing
We
some
can
sort of
explore some
incentive.
relicensure points. It's not worthy of credit because there's not a learning curve. It's just a matter of being reflective. But we could do probably some reasonable relicensure points.
I just know an incentive would go a long way for people who perfectly well know how to do it, but are not,
Chocolate.
they're not gonna take the extra step. Yeah, it's a good
Yeah,
idea.
and they're most likely people that have been in the program for a long time that are just like,
Or who operate really differently, like they're full-time at their school and only half of their money comes from us, and they're reporting differently.
Right.
Than a half-time specialist who goes between. Then also as the TA, I responded to a very nice specialist from Lowell Elementary who I did not know why I was getting her messages. Servers to only our region, helpful because we do have asked me for the professional development plans for specialists who are kind of on Struggle Express. And it's very hard to find their professional development plan because I get all of the assignments. So if, as the TAs, we could observe only our region, that would help. Although I did very much enjoy talking to the.
You should be able to go to
Rachel. I can see them, but I mean, I get like daily updates of everyone's assignment submissions.
You can manage your own
But what I can't
notifications.
do is I can't get notifications of only submissions from my people. Does that make sense? So if I want to get a notice in my email about assignment submissions because I want to see only those assignments, and I don't want to go in and manually find them, I
Yeah,
have to see everyone's or no one's.
Yeah, that was a big discussion at the beginning of this. How is it best for us to put you in so that
Yeah.
it works for you? So we'll have to take that question
Yeah.
to the Canvas gurus.
Because you
that's-
can assign me to observe only the U. And the question is, I mean, would anyone else like want to observe other, like maybe someone wants to see what BYU is doing because they have exemplary participation. I don't want to see that
I don't think we
because
want
I
don't think we want to.
No offense.
Nobody
has
has
time to do
Jerry was
that.
assigned under BYU. She's not even under Dixie.
Right.
Her assignment is in the
So
wrong
that's
place.
just a mistake.
So anyway, those are just my, we're not gonna solve it today, but just putting out there that there is a lot of stuff in there I could use and
accepted, I'm like, that's because they're in the wrong.
if I saw it targeted.
Well, the acceptance should be the number region, but. So are there any other
Point well
questions?
taken there, yeah. I wanted to make one comment about this particular piece that Karen pointed out as a trouble spot. The consequence of that is that our educators now know that there is someone in their district that is assigned to this program. So, and that put a little more emphasis on that person too, that they're like, oh, really? We're supposed to interact with people? So I like that. I'm not sure it's structured exactly right. When we review at the end of the year, we
This
may,
is new to all of
Yeah.
us. I mean,
we might adjust that.
I do have a question about that, because I feel like our LEA contact person has no idea. And so, would it be possible to say, along with the assurances this year, the LEA contact has to do the onboarding class or something similar? Because he doesn't know a single thing, and
Just
Especially,
submits the grant,
especially if it's a curriculum director that's super busy already, they're not aware of that, oh, this is even happening, so.
That's a great suggestion.
short, even if it's a 1 or 2 hour rather than the whole 4 hours, so that and it's part of the assurances program.
As an LEA,
Yes.
these are some of your duties. You will be meeting individually. You will be doing.
That would be very helpful.
That's a have to, Elisa. I think that's such a great idea.
Yeah.
That would make such a big difference.
Well, and to say, for your district to receive funding, take 2 hours.
Yes.
Once a year.
You have to onboard your own teachers.
Yeah.
So in BYU region, one of our largest districts, the coaches were doing the onboarding. And then when we added the grant managers, the level of problems that are now being solved because the grant manager has now watched these coaches for 2 years, and we're getting things solved that we've never even dreamed of, of getting solved. So meeting that LEA contact level, for me, from my perspective with the history, that is the key thing to getting growth and compliance in the district.
Yeah.
I agree.
For them to say,
Putting on the assurances.
here are our new people, so that you can get them into the class, rather than us finding out from them who their people are and then getting that name to you.
That LEA person is in charge. It's part of the grant manager's list. And we need to look back at the grant manager's thing, because I think when Jerry and I and Kelby and Trish created those, we had things like, our intent included that for the grant manager, that they were to assign that those things got done. But I think we could clarify the language on the grant manager's job and strengthen that. And then putting it on the assurances would really help.
Yeah, that's great conversation. The step positive is that now they are at least aware that, so we have made a step forward, and we'll continue to do that. Do we have any Zoomer comments?
We do not.
Oh, look where we are. Thank you.
I'm still eating chocolate.
Welcome back, everyone. Thank you.
How much did you get?
Thank you for lunch. Mine was delicious.
Yeah, thank you, Lisa.
I enjoyed it so much. Thank you. And I'm sorry I missed some of the conversation outside. I'm glad everybody did that. I felt like with all our things here, somebody needed to stay here. So.
Halloween costumes and the beautiful sunshine. That's about all we talked about.
Halloween costume, my son has been, grew a great, awesome beard and mustache for about 4 months, and it was really awesome. But the whole impetus was so that he could shave off the beard and have the mustache to be Ted Lasso.
Oh, yeah.
And it is awesome. It's awesome. His wife wouldn't let him just grow a mustache. So.
Okay, so who watches Ted Lasso? That's my question. You watch Ted Lasso?
No, but I've heard that I should.
Oh my gosh, it's the funniest show on TV.
Who has time for TV?
I should.
Well, I told Aaron we should have all wore costumes today. I didn't get a chance to wear mine because I'm here instead of at school, and I had a really great one. So
Oh.
it was Mrs. Incredible, and it had the whole.
Oh, I like that.
I-
This is incredible.
So I walked in the park last night to get my endorphins, and there was a little 5-6-year-old soccer team practicing in their costumes.
Oh, that's cute. Zombie soccer players running around.
One little boy walked up and threw his arms around his little friend and said, "I knew you were going to be Captain America. I knew you were going to be." Okay, I was going to do breakout groups on this. I think we'll just talk about it within the group in the interest of time. It may not be as in-depth, but think about the assurances in your region. What did you learn? What else would you like to know? And how can the assurances be leveraged for PD and program improvement? Both of those things. I want to let you know that it's been a great advantage for us with the help of Artworks for Kids to have Source and Impact Center work with us on the assurances. And they have collected data, they have distilled the data in your Google folder. You should have a one-pager from them that indicates their initial findings from the data. There is much, much to celebrate. Assurances data. There is far more to celebrate than there is that is concerning. Which doesn't mean that we don't want to pay attention to those things that are concerning. We have had suggestions from you that have been passed on to Sorensen Impact Center about adjusting questions, particularly questions about PD. So know that that is in the process. The PD questions were a little bit too general, didn't indicate whether the people answering had even attended any PD. So we are working on adjusting those questions for the next time around. So with that, what did you learn? Or what else would you like to know? And what ideas do you have for using this as a lever?
About PD is something that also we learned that a lot of students in art, that's the primary group that's missing out. And
Actually, can I ask a qualifying question?
Yeah.
When you say a lot,
I would say a lot of students who get tier 3 interventions miss out. How many students we serve who get tier 3 interventions is probably a smaller sliver.
do you have an idea of how many schools reported that?
No, it's on the spreadsheet, so I could check.
Okay,
But it was,
that's something we want.
but in addition to learning it from the spreadsheet and asking questions, other people said, oh yeah, that happens to me too, right? It's just not on the assurances. So that would be the biggest thing that stands out that our dean cares about, that all students should have access to the program. And that is one subset of students who gets left out. It's something good. And another thing we learned is that many specialists lack access to planning. And unlike other areas where principals kind of check off for compliance, like, yeah, we're doing this, a lot of principals did openly suggest that they aren't given access to collaborative planning. So those were two big things in terms of how that could be leveraged for program improvement, kind of the role of collaborative planning and whether it's essential in whatever this, growth affords. That would be something in the future.
Or planning time at all.
That's great.
Right.
Great. That's great. Thanks. Others?
Planning time different than collaborative plan.
Right.
Yeah,
Two different things.
Yeah,
Yes.
because I know for me at my school at South, I have a half an hour each 3 days a week. And then I'm supposed to stay after my contracted hours on Fridays to meet after the teachers have their PLCs to collaborate.
Okay. No? What else have we learned? Ellie?
I was reminded as I read through the few that I read through that this will never be a grant based on compliance. Because our goal is to go statewide. So the education component of this program is essential and critical because I don't think we're ever going to say, sorry, you didn't comply, we're pulling this. So the need for professional development for principals really hit me in the face as I read the compliances because we have to elevate people's vision for them to want to comply with this program the best they can in their situation. And I noticed on our challenges board and some of the places talking about how do we get beyond a prep time model now that we've opened that can of worms? How do we get people back to a higher vision, which was our original vision? And that's going to be through education. And that's not through educating the teachers, that's through educating the administration.
Thank you for that comment. As I have looked at the assurances and as we have written the questions on the assurances, it is with that intent of education. Even these assurances are, oh, hey, was I supposed to do that? And why? And what is the purpose? So the assurances themselves can be used as an educational tool, but I totally agree with you and I want to hold each one of you responsible in the rest of the afternoon when we talk about going statewide and going forward into this wonderful wonderful opportunity of equity and access. Think about those things that have just been talked about. How do we educate? How do we get to the place that it is what it is expected to be? And that it is for all of the children what it should be. How do we continue to improve that within those schools that we already have? So that's going to be the deep conversation for the rest of the afternoon, and I'll set that up, but thank you for pointing that out. Anything else that you want to say about assurances? What else do you want to know? Okay, as far as the scope and breadth? Are there things that we don't know from the assurances that we could?
One of my questions on the parking lot is about literacy and numeracy. Probably just entered the week.
Thanks.
That those are the only two academic core areas outside fine arts that are articulated, but I think most specialists are working on other academic core areas like science or social studies. So if those are the only two questions that principals are asked about, is that because that's what the legislature wants reported out, or because those are the best questions?
So we can look at that question about those two things, because code says learning in other subject areas like science, math. I think it lists all of what we would consider the academic subjects. Let's be honest, let's call them the tested subjects. So,
Except social studies, a lot of them do social.
a lot of them do social studies, and the very next sentence in the code talks about the social, emotional, and well-being of the students. So I think, I don't know, I just need to look at that question.
Because that's one I wonder, when principals respond, do they really know if the art specialist has worked on numeracy skills? Do you know what I mean? Like, our specialists are much more likely to integrate science than they are to do like a mathematics assessment. So that would be
Great.
that question.
And legislators do not ask about math specifics anymore. We have built the program to such a level, and many of them know us and know the program really quite well and have been through different levels, different iterations. So they don't ask us so much about math, test scores, things like that, because they know we can't really look at that and test it. I mean, we can't really hone in, and they understand that.
We can't show cause and effect.
Right. Thank you.
We can't show cause and effect with BTS on other test scores. We know from the volumes of literature nationwide, statewide, BTS-wide, we know it has a positive effect. We know that. And they know that now, I think. And you will see in what happened in board meeting that wasn't the impetus for going all out. It was something different than that. It was more about the well-being of the student. So heartfelt. It was about that comment that we used before, help me, who is it? Willem. Mo Willem. Science will get us out of the pandemic. Arts will get us through it. Okay.
I think Tamara had another question, sorry.
Oh, sorry, Tamara.
I really appreciated the assurances, and we got a lot of great action items out of that information. I was wondering about, I felt like we didn't have any information coming from sort of those instructional coaches model areas. And it felt like in our area, certainly a big hole of
I think you're right. I think you're right. what came out of Nebo District, the questions didn't fit. What came out of Davis District, the questions didn't fit. We haven't designed something for that, so that's.
Right.
Yeah,
Of course.
yeah.
For some districts don't have them.
Yeah.
Any parting comments? Scott said parting shots, but that would have been not asset-based. That would not have been asset-based thinking. Okay, we're gonna go on. Every year, for the past several, since we've had a particular deputy superintendent in the State Board of Education, there has been a process for requesting increase of funding. And the process has been titled Putting Forth a Business Case. And the form changes and there's a deadline. This year, the deadline for the business case was mid-August for this year's session. And we literally had, I believe, 3 days.
Yeah.
It was less than a week
Yeah.
to prepare the business case. Not that we hadn't been thinking about it, but we had. And this is what they call a quad chart that is an extrapolation from the more lengthy business case that was presented on behalf of BTS. So give you just a few minutes to look at this. This is also in the drive. And this was a template. We didn't get to pick the categories. This was something that we needed to fill out. So there's that social, emotional, academic, and arts learning of students.
I don't understand sorry, this is so dumb, the 2022 funding level at 12 million, Oracle category. 2022's.
This year.
This year.
SFY 22 is the year we're in.
Okay.
And we are funded at 12,880,000. Last year, we were funded at 10,880,000 for SFY. We call it school fiscal year. And
the school fiscal year goes to the second half of the year.
That's correct. Okay. The number is the second half of the year on a SFY, school fiscal year. Then notice that the top number is the request of increase. So the 4,400,000 was the original request in our business case made to the Board of Education in early fall. Okay? Any other questions about this? I'm going to show you some of you may have seen this, but we are going to each year, our team tries to talk to a particular board member and say things like, hey, when our business case comes up in board meeting, would you be willing to speak on behalf of it? And so Lisa contacted board member Booth, wanted to meet with us face to face. And he came and he met with us and want to tell the story of that particular meeting?
He sold us on the arts for about an hour. He let us know how meaningful and important the arts are.
And he further said, not going to ask for, I know that's the business case that you've put forward. But then he made this point. And he made it even stronger. He said, I want you to take a marker and put an X through the children on this picture who shouldn't have BTS arts. Okay, so.
Got goosebumps.
So this is what happened. This is 9 minutes that has been.
This is a 2-hour meeting that's been edited so that we only see the part where they're talking about BTS and not asking other programs. And is this an amendment to the amendment, or is this this, that, and the other?
And I think we're not getting
Sound. That's correct.
Okay, here it goes.
I would like to amend the motion.
It doesn't matter, it's close enough.
Insert in the number 4 position.
Can you hear Aaron?
SALP
Kelby? Okay.
proposal
He's
that
still here?
we have substituted for the original business case that you received documentation on from Dale probably just overnight.
For clarity, Board Member Booth, and do you want to keep a top 10 or do you want it now have to be an 11?
I'm happy to keep it at 11 so that as the discussion ensues, have the input and the opportunity for those who feel so strongly about these first top 10 to be able to express themselves. And I'm open. I want to be convinced as to what is right for the children of our state and for the staff and the leaders of learning that have to make it happen.
Thank you. I just am looking for, yes. Board Member Booth, would you like to speak to your amendment?
I sent all of you a text just a few minutes ago where my thoughts from overnight between our wonderful meetings that we've been spending so much time together in, where I've expressed myself, and in the middle of some of the deliberations we have a chance to, with Carol's help, I shortened it. You'll be grateful that you got the edited version rather than the longer version. Carol is great for brevity. But I think that everything has been expressed in writing that I need to say. I just believe this is a key moment to make a difference in all of our lives, most importantly, the students that we have responsibility for in light of this pandemic and the healing that needs to take place and the learning gaps that need to be closed. It's a great opportunity. And so I'm very grateful for the opportunity for us to consider this as one of our top priorities.
Board Member Booth, Chair Huntsman?
Yes, I want to propose an amendment to the amendment. And then I'll do it. I propose we take the BTS Arts in all schools and move it to item 11. If I get a second, I'd like to that.
Board Member Moss or Hutchings, either one, you can take either one of those as a second. Okay, Chair Huntsman, would like to speak to that amendment?
Everyone loves the Beverly Terry Swanson Arts Program. And for years, I've advocated for it up on the Hill. It has been part of our legislative ask. And it will get funded. There will be a portion funded, or all funded, a lot funded. My experience in the past is it just has to be on our radar. But if it takes the number 4 spot, and it's already in super favor, huge favor of the governor's office, and then also the legislature, then it takes one of our other priorities away. So I'm not speaking against Beverly Taylor Swanson arts in all our school proposals. But I think we send a message, if it's for super high priority over full day kindergarten, early warning system expansion, the special education teacher shortage. I think it's on the priority side.
Thank you, Chair. Board Member Lair, you speaking to the amendment,
That's in the video.
Yes, I hear Chair Huntsman, and I know that's a huge concern. My competing concern, every one of these should be number one. Literally, I mean, these are.
Oh.
Hold, please.
Carol just explained that that's the strategy they followed before.
But we have for years, expressed that legislators like BTS, but we are at a point where we have got to let, I believe, we've got to let the Thompson family off the hook. The private family has supported a program that continues to grow and thrive in our schools, and so we don't just need to bad. We need more. And I'm not sure legislators, I think the board, my opinion is the city legislators, this is we've got data. This is not just
And David.
anymore. And so I think we need the additional funding to support the program in the schools without the of this one. So I do support moving it up. I don't know because I
I would like to amend the motion.
Objectives. This type of program. I love the automated captioning. I didn't do it. It automatically goes with them.
Thank you, Board Member Lair. Board Member Earl, are you speaking to the amendment
We skipped.
I am.
Thank you.
Wait, what is the amendment to the amendment?
To Taylor Sorensen's priority to 11.
Okay, yes, I would leave it where it's at. I think we should be using our funding to in this type of an area versus putting so much into social emotional package programs. This is where the research is. It's that actually expand capacity in children. We're investing so much in so many different things, hoping to achieve so many objectives. This type of programming, I think, is the right direction to go for our students. I would keep it a top priority. Remove some of these others, especially. Well, I'll speak to some others in a minute, but yes.
Thank you, Board Member Earl. Vice Chair Davis. The amendment.
Yes, and a quick question, we're talking about ongoing funds here.
Yes.
Yes, ongoing funds, okay. I on the amendment to the amendment, I mean, I'll probably vote no. I don't think it should be number 11. I also don't think it's maybe number 4. So, I don't know, I'm guessing all these are gonna shuffle around a bit. But I will say this, I've seen the power of the arts in our schools and for our students, and in a textured time, I think we could use more of it and not less. So I support the idea in general, just a little higher maybe.
Thank you, Vice Chair Davis. Okay, Board Member Straight.
We're out of amendments, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Now we are. Okay, all right, thanks, Board Member Straight. Okay, so the amendment to the amendment is to change the priority from 4 to 11.
All in favor? You know what? I think we're just gonna have to do a roll call, Cindy. I don't think we can track this. Okay, so
I'll help.
we're back 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That amendment, the amendment to the amendment fell, so we're back to the original amendment that the board add the BTS Arts in all schools funding request to a priority item number 4. Any discussion to that amendment? Seeing none, we'll go through here. Board Member Booth,
Yes.
Board Member Klein,
Yes.
Vice Chair Davis,
Yes.
Board Member Earl,
Yes.
Board Member Hanson,
No.
Board Member Hart,
Yes.
Chair Huntsman,
Yes.
Board Member Hutchings,
Yes.
Board Member Hymas,
No.
Board Member Lear,
Yes.
Board Member Moss,
Yes.
Board Member Norton,
Yes.
Board Member Straight, Board Member Belknap is a no, so it's a 1, 2, 3, 4. That amendment passes.
Yep. So in case you're ever interested, this goes on for 12 hours, the first Thursday and Friday of every month. It is very informative to listen to, so if you ever want some background music and knowledge about the state board, know that that happens, and it's public on YouTube.
And if you want a lesson on Robert's Rules of Order too.
Don't watch it.
Yeah, I think that was one of the big ahas to Kelly when she came to the office.
Yep.
Was the politics of how these things work. So I want to make a couple of points. Chair Huntsman has been very supportive all of the time. His amendment to the amendment was not because he does not support this program in its fullest. He didn't want to give up one of the board's priorities because he was confident that the program would be funded without priority.
As we
So that's
have for the last 10 years.
Yeah, exactly. So I saw Tamara's eyebrows raised when it came to his vote, and he voted yes. So know that he is really supportive. His reasoning was what it was. I mean, it was just what he was thinking. So what happened after we met with Board Member Booth was he said, no, I'm going to the board and I'm going to say 4.4 million is not enough. How much is it going to take? I need you to figure out how much it's going to take to go statewide. So we spent some time going over those numbers. We increased PD to 1.2 million. We increased the number of coaches. We added the four support people in the regions. We did a year-by-year projected increase in salaries. So we added another 4% for this year and another 4% for next year. And we came up with this number that we would need of an additional $12.7 million. Board members looked at the 5-year plan and said, so if we do it now instead of in 5 years, it essentially saves us between $4 and $5 million. That is due to 5 years, the cost will be higher. And so we said yes, and the cost will still continue to increase over time. But for an implementation at this point, it
Get
would
on
be
Airbnb again.
more. Have to put it back in. So we created a new business plan, and the business plan did not go in Civic Clerk because Board Member Booth wanted to present that on the day of, so it wasn't there prior. But we had written the new business plan and written the new quad chart. So Ashley, I noticed you had a question or comment.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask, when they're talking about, scaling up, the report attached to this, but it never talks about the model that we're increasing. And what you've added, like what model does this assume?
The assumption was, in the numbers that I figured, the assumption was the formula funding that we have used for the last several years, which would be 1 to 2 in normal-sized schools, and that there would be adjustments for schools that are larger. So the assumption was that Davis District would go from three instructional coaches, if that's the right term, that they would go from 3 personnel to at least 30. That Nebo District would go from 8 to 15 or 16. 1 to 2, 36 schools. And I'm sorry, I'm trying to pull these numbers off, but specific answer to your question, it would be the 1 to 2 model with adjustments for very large schools.
That is for coaching, not specialists.
No, that is for in-school specialists, 1 specialist per 2 schools.
Instructional coaches.
I was confused as
So
well.
she used the data from instructional coaches, because what's happening in those districts with those instructional coaches, they're trying, like Nebo right now, each coach serves 2 schools. The reason that they're called coaches is because the district is in charge of their employment, not a principal, so that they can rotate them. Kind of a specialized coach model.
So it
there
would-
in data.
Yeah, it would so in Davis District, we call them instructional coaches, there are 3. So instead of having 3 instructional coaches, we would have 30 arts educators.
But they would probably still be employed at the district level?
Yeah.
Instead of at the school level with their direct supervision?
No.
Not at Davis? Oh, good, that's gonna be,
No,
In
in
Nebo,
Davis
they still will
District,
be.
in Davis District, it would be the model where an arts educator would be hired to serve 2 schools.
Got it. So in that universe though, what is the model the specialists are using? Are we expanding with the uptime model? Are we expanding that we still want to be pushing integration and or side by side? Like what is the overall vision of the expansion in terms of the model for specialists? My big question in the parking lot is who are the specialists? Right?
We'll get to that. Is that okay if we, will you hold the question?
Sure.
Okay, thank you. So here is the quad chart that requested the 12,700,000, which, as I mentioned before, and I'm going to reiterate this, that it increases the PD funding from its level at 680,000 to $1.2 million. So it's almost double on PD. It adds 4 regional, now I'm going to call them, for lack of a better term right now, to help out of the regional service centers to also help with implementation and fidelity. And it increases the number of instructional coaches from a number to a bigger number. and I think, I don't hold me to this, but I think the number is something like from 12 to 20. 20 or 22-ish. And these are all projections. These are all projections based on the plans that the LEAs will submit. So to go specifically back to your question, Ashley, is a prep time model okay? Trying to make that a yes and. The district must ensure those other components of collaboration, appropriate planning time, and co-teaching when possible. Those are foundational to the program. So please don't put prep time models in a bucket that they can't work. And it is, in some places, it's working quite well. So
I would just say that it's not saying prep time models don't work. It's saying they're from a side-by-side model, and that if you're planning on scaling up and the expectations are unclear, that's when it gets confusing for specialists. Because, like, for example, we have a district with a prep time model where specialists only teach for 30 minutes alongside paras in rotations. They're never going to have the capability of integration that a person who's full-time would have, right? So the prep time model bucket is not a bad bucket, but if we're going to scale up, assuming most of them are prep time models, we have to sort of hone in on what we're expecting so we can fulfill our part of PD. The way I would give PD to a person doing 30 rotations is to a specialist in like the origin of the program, right? With side by side as an expectation. So that's why trying to focus on what that is and then what the role of additional, like I haven't been here for the service center conversations. That's why I wanted to see the old. But if I knew what service center's role was, then that would, you know, I think some of these roles as they get teased out, our greatest asset from the use perspective is highly qualified specialists in the classroom directly serving kids. That's what we care most about. So how scaling up represents our greatest asset is something like, are we focusing on highly qualified specialists giving direct services to kids, or are we focusing on scaling up the hierarchy that then siphons down to more kids, even if it's not the original intent of the program in terms of integration?
You made a lot of points there, and I'm going to try to distill that and respond to them. We are not giving away arts integration. That is in state code. That is in our program model. Arts integration will be the expectation. Collaboration will be the expectation. That is part of the model. Side-by-side teaching will continue to be held as the gold standard. It will not and has not been required for the past several years. Side-by-side is the gold standard, and we will continue to instruct and help people realize the power of that model. Co-teaching will be acceptable, or collaborative teaching includes working together, and that will be the model. So those are going to be part of the things that when we start putting the charts up, you've got to put in place those things that are going to be essential for our professional learning as we bring all of these new on board. Another point that you made, and I'm not sure I enumerated them all, but you talked about the resources of licensed educators. That will still be model, licensed educators. I don't have my head in the sand, and I know that right now there are not 150 people out there looking for this job. So part of our responsibility will be, how do we get them, and how do we get them highly trained and highly qualified? In my mind, I see something like an Apple program that includes the proper endorsement. And I see that being part of that $1.2 million that we have to spend.
Kelby has a question, so I want to make sure that we stick to our norms of Zoomers and Roomers.
Thank you.
Kelby, you can come off mute. There you go.
Okay, great. So I don't think, I mean, this is a question for my colleagues statewide. Is side-by-side happening in any of your areas? Because it's not in ours unless like a teacher has been in the program a long time and values that. And they seek out the specialist to continue that, but we're really not seeing that happen unless it's just like per grade level or a teacher that comes early because she loves it or he loves it and wants to see what the students were doing. So I was just asking from your assurances, is that happening across the state side by side? Because it's really not in our region anymore.
Very few, but one. We've got one charter school, Edith Bowen Lab School, Utah State University.
Okay.
And we have one, it's like a legacy holdover, it's kind of like what it is. As soon as they feel like they can drop, they drop the side by side. You said that we're going to continue advocating for that other model. I feel like a really beautifully planned campaign to educate with videos and stuff might be necessary, because if we say side by side is better, they say, okay, I heard you, we're not going to do it, So really showing the beauty of that model is maybe
right. And we're going to take the rest of the afternoon to capture all of these ideas of what is absolutely essential, of what resources we might have as we move forward to this piece of equity and access for students.
I had one piece of,
yes.
Your arm that says you're going to go on. I think a critical piece of this, we're talking about recruiting, but retention is a huge part of recruiting. And one of the problems with the prep time model and this, when they get in with specialties and they are treated like a specialty teacher, that's where our retention, that's where we lose our best people. And this currently the program is bleeding our top talent. And that is a concern for me. We will work with a teacher for 5 years and they take a job at the middle school or high school like that because of the job, the quality of the job. And I just grieve every time we lose one of them. But if they're treated like a specialty teacher and they're in these rotations and they don't have more support and the value of their program, they invest and build these programs and it's not valued as a program, I don't know that recruitment is as big a deal as retention.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, and some of the practices we have right now do not support retention.
Okay, so thank you. And that will have to be something that we will address. Our actual attrition rate is less than the state average, but that doesn't account for those who move on to other positions. So
most of the ones we leave, it's because they get what they see as a better position.
So people who leave the profession out of this program is actually a lower percentage than the state average. So that's good news, but it's not accounting for this piece that you're talking about. And I don't want to minimize that because I know that happens. That also happens with math teachers and science teachers. When they have been in the middle school, then they get an opportunity to go to the high school, and that's perceived to be a bigger, better job. So the important part to me about what you said is how do we use our resources, current and future, to maximize the value of being a BTS teacher? And how do we maximize that so that being the high school theater director and getting all those accolades isn't as attractive as it might be?
In this case, what's different about it than math is many of the people who are leaving would rather be at an elementary school. And it isn't that they want the bigger accolades of the performance of the high school. They are into elementary children. They want to do that. It really is the working conditions.
They want to be valued.
And the study out of the University of Utah's Education Policy Center, maybe 5 years ago, they did a big study that showed teachers, the biggest reason teachers in Utah leave is not money, it's working conditions. And the working conditions and the experiences they have is a that's the biggest factor in why teachers leave, the lack of respect and stuff. And I worry sometimes that our model creates untenable working conditions for some of them when they're trying to serve 1,000 kids in 2 schools. So one teacher I talked to yesterday, she does one school the first half of the year, another school the second half of the year, and the level, the quality of the relationships is minimized. Therefore, her job satisfaction is significantly reduced. And although she would stay in elementary school, if that were her first choice, she's at risk of being lost just because of that.
Okay, so our challenge then is to mitigate that without going beyond, we have guardrails.
Okay.
We can't go beyond the 1 to 2. But there are things that we can mitigate within that 1 to 2. So put your best thinking on and think how we can leverage the resources that we have or will have to mitigate those working conditions. Years ago, one of the things that this group came up with was support at the region. And that we hope that we'll be able to put in place. But I right now is not the problem solving. That's going to be done in the brainstorm. So we're going to have an opportunity to put up all these things that have to be in place so that this works. What has to be in place so that all of Member Booth's grandchildren and all of your neighbors and your children and my grandchildren have access to BTS in an effective and meaningful way. So I want you to think asset-based. Get back to how do we make this work? We're a group of smart people and we can figure it out.
Well, my question is, if I have board member Booth's 9 grandkids, I can think of putting them in all the different LEAs, including charters and districts in our region. All of them are going to have a radically different experience. Some are going to be really good, great arts experiences that are enriching, and some are honestly not going to be great, and they're not capitalizing on what the greatest asset of the program is, in my opinion, direct services to kids from a highly qualified specialist who wants to be in that environment. So if I could take his 9 grandkids just in our region and put them all in that situation, before I could brainstorm about effective solutions, I would need to know, are all of those 9 models going to be on the table for grantees, or is there a more clear vision for what it looks like? Because right now, all the things you said are in code aren't universally happening across our region because of the models that LEAs are using. And they are using them and it's fine, and they're completing their assurances and their funds. And as Callie pointed out, it's never going to be compliance-based in the way some programmatic grants are. So is there some clear vision of how those things are happening in codes related to the model that the state will permit? Because from the university role, I'm not going to be implementing the model, right? I take the specialists that come, I look at the model they're using, I provide professional learning to them to the best of my capability, but I can't articulate solutions if I don't know the vision of the model for the programs. Does that make sense?
It does. The roles and responsibilities, the handbook is really quite clear. Is there a way that a LEA might be skating by, like you're saying?
Well, for example, we all went over the assurances. We said collaborative planning time is being checked no, right? So in the handbook, it says collaborative planning time is required. And that's a pretty uniform check no from principals in our region. And I heard that from the group as well. So to me, it's not an issue of who's fading by or getting away with what. It's what is the vision moving forward for what these models look like, and then what is my role of providing PD for those. So if I hear that all of the things in code and the program assurances are staying the same, but
the models will remain a la carte for grantees and they'll get to pick and choose. That's where I have ongoing questions.
Okay, I'll have a conversation with you about that, Ashley, but the models are listed in the handbook. If the models in the handbook need to be adjusted, then we can absolutely look at that and take input. What I want this afternoon to be about is about moving forward to ensure that everybody in your region has a positive experience. So that's what we're going to do, and from now, we have some time to be able to do that, to see how far we can get. And I'm sorry, but we might not get all of your questions answered today. But we are going to do a brainstorming. We are going to get some ideas out there. We're going to take the best thinking, and we're going to see what those say about ensuring quality programming for every student. Okay? Okay. Questions about this? The budget. You'll have it in your Google Drive. It's in there. Increase in coaching costs. I'm sorry, I can't remember the number. When you guys are working, I'll look at the number of how many coaches we increased. We have 4 positions here at the regional service centers. One thing that I want to point out about the regional service centers is that they don't overlap. They don't align our regions. It's not even that simple. Not even that simple.
The location.
It's where they are.
Geographical area, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, yeah.
They're limited to their geographical area, whether it's
Yeah,
half of
so
this
there
and half of
might
that.
there might be, in fact, I looked at this, there might be one regional service center that will work with 3 different university regions.
Depending on their.
Well, it might be.
And there are some regions that don't have any, like Cache is not served by a regional service center, and University of Utah does not have a regional service center. So we have to look at what the needs are there.
Are you bound, if you hire a person in the regional service center, are you bound to follow their parameters? Or can you say, I'm going to put your job here, but your job description is going to go beyond this region?
I don't know, we maybe could, that's something to consider.
Because you'd be writing a new job description.
Yeah.
You should, you got to figure out where that binding is, because Cache has to have a regional support. They're part of the rural areas of why we created the regional service center people. And when we originally.
Well, her ones outside of the valley would be part of a regional service center. It's just Cache and Logan.
So, can't we just, you could write that job description to include Cache and Logan.
Maybe it's an idea.
But our idea was to serve those regions. The solution was the regional service centers, but maybe those jobs have to really come out of the State Office of Education, not in the regional service centers. Maybe that's not the fixed thing. Maybe the role is the fixed thing.
Maybe. Yeah. Any questions here? This we alluded to earlier, or Ashley brought this up. Way back, so go back with me in the presentation to the $4.4 million. We really need 4.8. And the other 400,000 would come from this business case for automatic increase. Kelly and Karen and Lisa were on a Zoom call with me when I got a phone call from deputy superintendent about what is this? What are you talking about when you talk about why can't this be funded by the districts? Why can't this increase be funded? And I got pretty animated by, did I?
A little.
By saying, hold on. The way that you're talking about it, our arts educators would not get the same raise as everybody else unless we get this automatic increase. Because everybody in the district gets, whatever percent, 4 to 6% on an increase based on WPU and negotiations and all of that. And the argument was, well, why can't that just come out of the district funds? Well, because this FTE is an additional FTE that we are funding through this program. So after that conversation, about 48 hours later, she called back and she said, I totally get it. I totally get it. And it's not just your program. It's other programs that have similar funding. So we have decided to pull that money from your business case and put it in a USB business case for those programs who need an automatic funding. So BTS is part of that. It's necessary for program maintenance due to population growth and increased salary costs. And it is linked to the percentage of the WPU, which as districts are funded by WPU, WPU in most cases is the starting point for negotiations on teacher salary increases. So the current BTS Arts calculated amount for FY22 to FY23 is around $400,000. And that's a guess, you know?
I have to say, I kind of love that your comments help them recognize that this is impacting other programs as well, because it's not just like BTS is the sore thumb. It's like, oh, they're leaving a lot of teachers out when they're not thinking this way. I'm really glad that you did that.
Thanks.
And I would recommend taking a look at that full board meeting because they have a conversation about this in depth and they actually specifically use BTS as a shining example of what that would do if not. So I would recommend taking a look at that board meeting. It's right at the beginning where they talk about a lot of Robert's rules, but right at the beginning they'll talk about this business case.
And as Kelly stated, BTS is held up as the example of a program that really needs this continual improvement or an increase in funding. Did you have a comment, Kelly?
Yeah, I still need to understand the budget because it says 12 million in ongoing. Full funding for the program is how much, and when does full funding move to ongoing?
It's all ongoing. We're all ongoing now.
So why does it only say 12 million at the top of your slide?
Because that's the new increase.
That's the increase of ongoing. Then the old 12 million is also ongoing?
All of it.
All of it.
They're asking for double.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. I just had to learn to read the slide.
I know, I was confused too. I thought, we're already at 12 and we're going to go to 12? Oh, no, we're
And
gonna.
I thought we only had 4 million in ongoing. The rest was in regular.
Oh, no.
So it
12.8
was
is
moving the rest to ongoing that I got confused about. It's
Okay.
all in ongoing.
Yeah, and that's,
Good question.
that's something that is confusing to us when we do the business cases. Every year we have to ask, so do you want our total, what we need total? And every year they come back and say, no, just your increase. You can expect the ongoing to be ongoing.
The previous 12.7 is now ongoing. Now we're asking for additional in ongoing. Okay, thank you.
They were doubling it. Yikes.
Yeah. We need to. We've waited long enough. Randy couldn't be more right. After 12 years, isn't it time to fully fund?
Mm-hmm. Okay, so you're clear on this other piece, that even if we get the additional 12.7, every year, we're gonna have or
More,
five,
or
or
more.
6.
It's just like you said, it's a guess.
Will this become, I mean, this seems like it should become natural habit for
Automatic.
them. If they give an increase to teachers, then they have to also give the increase to teachers in other programs. Like it should be equal for, equity.
This business case actually is for a code change so that this would be automatic.
You shouldn't have to ask every year to get the same as everyone else.
Yes.
It should be the new
Correct.
norm.
I agree.
If the code
Tired
change
of asking for the same thing
succeeds,
every year.
if we had an example in the past where an LEA had dropped the program and then we weren't able to move that WPU to a school, for example, like with Pacific Heritage and Murray, would this going into code account for growth so that WPU would be higher? Does that make sense? Or not WPU, FTE, sorry. But if I had one FTE or half FTE at Pacific Heritage, a charter, and they drop, could their FTE considerably transfer to a waitlist school in the future?
That's a good question, because that happened, with some of our schools.
That happened this year. With this funding, we don't expect to have a wait list.
No, I understand that, but just it.
So yes.
But if someone dropped.
Okay, maybe I don't
I
understand.
think I got it. Yes,
Yes.
they could transfer.
Just can you shift the funds to another school?
Okay.
Yes.
Yes. Next steps. I'm going to be really, really fast because I think we need to get to the meat of the meeting. But obviously, the capital will be the next steps here in a couple months. We're already meeting with legislators, already working on the funding on the two different cases, working with key legislators, working to get them out in schools. I've contacted many of you to get them out in schools. I will let you know when I am going, should you choose to go. Would love to have you. If not, just know that the program, we will be represented out in schools. It's the schools that a legislator covers. So I enter the information and find the schools on there. So we take them, where their constituents are. I sent you a copy of the letter that has gone out to the waitlist schools from Kathy and myself. I will also follow up with those. If you have questions, please let me know. And if you have additional schools, let me know. I think this is part of the conversation too this afternoon and going forward. How do we reach these other schools that aren't part of the wait list, but we would love to have them apply should we get $12 million in funding or whatever that amount looks like. So school visits, and this is our lovely Melanie.
That was our first.
Was.
That was our first back after COVID.
Yes.
Nothing like having 3 weeks of school. Let's have an assembly. Okay. Teach them 3 songs. Okay.
But you did it.
But you see once a week, and then you didn't get to see 2 of the classes at all.
Okay. Awesome. And it was.
And they were cute. Good thing they're
Oh, this
seeking
was
cute.
bad.
Yes.
Bad one.
So, brief, if you have any questions, let me know. But I really think we should get to the meat of the meeting and get started on the models, what you need, what this looks like going forward. Can't remember the next slide.
Here.
Okay.
This is just some graphs. So I love graphs. USBE has a place on their website where you can pull every elementary school for the state. It's all internal and updated, but it can be pulled from anyone. So I pulled all the elementary schools for the state and went through and distinguished which schools had BTS arts and which ones did not, to look at what is the big picture here. So I have each one of the schools here, and I'll answer the unknown question here shortly because I know that's the question. The green is your region. That's the amount of schools that have it. If you have a little bit of orange, that means that this year, for whatever reason, was put on pause or didn't have it. And then the red is how many schools you would potentially get, or the schools that currently do not have BTSRs in your region?
This is making the assumption that we're not making any region boundary changes.
Yes.
This is with the
This
current.
is just as is. And then the next slide, so that'll show you where you're at total, potentially in your region. And then the next slide is how many schools each region would potentially add. I tried to do colors, but SUU, sorry, I had to go with like an orange. We started running out of red options for people. And so that kind of just shows you where the regions would be at for full growth, for full implementation. These are in your drive as well.
I just have a question. We have one district that they just have one specialist for 5 schools. Does this count if they went to the full model?
Great question. Yes, it does.
Okay, great.
Because we pulled out those schools that were underfunded, understaffed, I think is the term I used. And we took them up to the 1 to 2 model as well.
I have another question. I don't think this goes in the brainstorming, but have you considered, like, I think in that school district, well, I don't know, I think sometimes they don't want to go up because of the cost to them. So is there a plan to force people to join the program or to say?
It's a good question. I think that some of the stuff that's on our next slide to talk about, like, I don't want to say marketing, but kind of marketing, like how do we get people aware of the power of, and of the implications of, if you were to adopt this program, it costs money, it costs resources, like how can we make sure they have that information and how do we also hook them? So I think that's part of the brainstorming this afternoon.
Not only forcing them.
Yeah.
And also making sure that there are some rural regions where there's just not people.
Right.
Right.
Exactly.
Right, we have to remember that.
Okay, Lisa?
Well, it kind of like, I envision we would not force districts to have a coach. If Salt Lake District will never need a coach. I mean, likely not. I don't think we would
Adam
force.
has actually lobbied for coaches several times.
Really?
And it's been opposed by other coaching group, like coaching at district is really ineffective. But Adam has tried to do fine arts coaching previously. So it's not, that's when it gets hard, right? That's why I'm, a broken record about my question of like, what models are we pushing? Because Adam will want one thing, and does that align with what would be best for BTS? I can't say that. I don't know.
Lisa, I'm going to go back to your comment about, and I'm going to call it out as Severe. Severe has applied for more staffing in the last 2 years. So they're.
Because I feel like they chose to go down and then maybe wanted to go back up.
New superintendent, every year they call on the phone and say, why can't we have more?
Okay.
So just so that you know that. I'm going to make one more general comment, and I'm going to let you know that we put up, USBE's role is to put up the guardrails. So we need to make sure that those guardrails are appropriate. This is a local control state. So individual LEAs have latitude within those guardrails. And it's our responsibility to make sure that the guardrails are strong enough to ensure effectiveness and not so strong that it mandates details. Okay. This is the little task for the next hour and 25 minutes. We're going to put up posters that have these categories. And under PD, we're going to put up one for each of these. When we talk about university preparation, that has 2 pieces. That has for you right now, what do you need to do to prepare for the growth that was seen, but also what needs to be done for teacher preparation programs if we have any leverage there. So there's those 2 pieces on the university preparation. We've had some brainstorming ideas already come out about the regional service center. what needs to happen there. So I'm going to talk about the USBE administration plan. With this heavy lift and with this educator piece, we have collaboratively decided not to go for another piece that leaves a line item for increased administration at USBE. That doesn't mean that we can't leverage that some way. We could potentially leverage that through what dual language immersion has done and do some MOUs for staffing with individuals. So on that, make what recommendations, ideas that you have. Once again, I'm going to ask that this be asset-based. I think we all know what all the problems are. This isn't, we're going to turn this from a problem solving to an asset-based idea listing, and for this time, this is just a brainstorm. Okay, so all ideas are good ideas, and all ideas will be captured. We're going to put up the posters. What questions do you have about the task?
I need to understand the difference. To me, the purpose when we got to the regional service center positions was to increase USB administration out in the field. So I don't understand the difference between the bottom two.
Do we need both?
Or do we need more? Do we need more in addition to that?
Or because to me, the regional service center positions may not be hired out of regional service centers. They may have too many restrictions there, but that's part of the USB administration plan. So for me, those two kind of go together.
Okay.
But, so clarify my thinking.
I see them as different, and this is how I see it, but this doesn't mean that how I see it is how I should see it. It just means that what I see is that at USBE right now, we have Kelly, who is 0.5 BTS, and she is funded by an outside grant. Have Karen, who is 0.5, funded on the administrative line for BTS, and we have me, who is 0.4 or 0.6 for BTS on that same administrative line. I get confused on which part of my job is from which funding line. But so from the most that we have funded at USBE is 1.2. Is that enough? I don't know.
And so that's what you're referring to by the USB administration plan. Okay, now I see the difference. So one is, how are we going to get out to the state and get hands in the field? And one is internal office. That's how you're seeing it.
That's how I see it.
Got it. Thank you.
Okay. Okay. Instructions to people.
If I put it in the chat for them. Anybody who's in the chat who didn't see it before, if you have things you want to add, put it in the chat. I'll put them on the sticky notes and put it up for you. So that's my job.
When you're thinking about the PD, the reason that I had her make this for each of the areas, and we kind of touched on it in the discussion, but we're going to need to bring these non-participating LEAs on board and help them know. So what are the essential things that LEAs are going to need to know? What ideas do we have for doing that? And to strengthen the understanding of the LEAs that are with us. So this is all encompassing. Everything that you can think of that would strengthen the program for existing and ensure meaningfulness as we go forward.